I'm Sierra Stegman,
I'm Jeannie Austin.
And I'm Spencer Sisney.
and today we're talking about the Australians before colonization, which is basically Aboriginal culture, which was the people that existed before the first fleet came in 1788, which is basically the British coming to discover a new world because they were just out of resources. But we're focusing on the culture before all of that happened.
So the Aboriginals were a very resourceful culture. There was over 400 nations in Australia of the Aboriginal culture before the British came, and they lived very harmoniously together. They did everything from fish to hunt. They used the land very, very well. Most of them lived very close to the ocean. They used the ocean a lot. They would fish, and they would use spears, harpoons, scoop nets, and they used all the animals in the land too for resources.
But they always made sure that they never overused them. So if they were hunting one, they would take a break and then go to the other because they respected the nature and they didn't want to over hunt something.
Exactly. And so they did a really good job. Like we talked about, the other Native Americans that would burn the land and everything to move on, they kind of did that in the way of using the animals. And so they wouldn't hunt one creature and stick to one creature. They ate everything from, they used to even eat koalas, and everything to as extreme as freshwater crocodiles.
Yes.
And they would harpoon them to stun them.
Yeah, they use a lot of different tools. They use a lot of sticks, like throwing sticks, and they would create this sharp point at the end, which is meant to stun the animals so that they could get closer to it. And they always hunted in groups so that if one of them missed, there was always another person to back up and go get it. And as you said, for the fishing, they would stay really still and then stab the water, sometimes for hours, just standing still. And there were barbed ends on the hook so that they could just yank the fish out of the water. And so that's how they survived. And the men would hunt, and then the women were they would gather fruits, vegetables, bugs, yeah. And they would use grinding stones to make flour out of seeds and grain and things like that. They are also famous for the boomerang, which was this curved piece of wood, I guess, that was really hard to use, and it took a lot of skill. And sometimes, the young boys, they'd be known to practice their boomerang throwing for hours on end just because it was a really hard thing to do. What did you mention about the dream time?
Oh, the dream time. So the dream time is basically I guess you could say the foundation for the whole Aboriginal culture. They believe that that's where their ancestry started. And so a lot of what they do in their culture and the way that they hunt, the way that they marry, everything pretty much relies on this dream time. And they're very, very spiritual. They have rituals for everything. During funerals, they actually paint their bodies white to mourn. And Sierra said that she found out something really cool, that they wouldn't bury their dead, that they would let it rot. And then after they let the flesh rot, then they would carry the bones of their loved ones around with them for a year. And so everything that these people did was just very, very spiritual.
Yeah. And a big part of some of their ceremonies would be fire. And they didn't have matches or anything. They would use two sticks together and rub it as friction, or they would use a split, what is the word? I don't know. Where they would strike a rock against it and to create sparks. And because the fire was really hard to do, they would carry around this fire stick, is what they called it, was just basically a smoldering lump of wood. So it was always something lit because it was really hard to get that done. And as you said, they used fire to burn their the land so that a new new crop could grow up fresh, and they could also keep the animals close to them. So they were really smart and similar to the Native Americans in that way.
To the Dreamtime thing, I saw how they actually got their honey for it's a prized possession there, and they go through and the land provides it for them because the termites are hollowing out the tree and pointing out where the honey is in the tree. So it was really interesting that they use that.
And then also going back to part of what they eat, with the honey reminded me, there's these huge honey ants that live in Australia, and I guess they live kind of deep down in the ground. And so the women, when they go in, gather and everything, they'll dig into the soil and they'll find these things are huge. I kid you not. Like they're like the size of a beetle here, and they'll cook them with the dirt and everything with them, and they say that the dirt actually gives it more flavor.
It sounds delicious.
They're really resourceful people, and we can see a lot of their culture through rock art, which is one of the oldest forms of human like art form recorded. And they have like drawings on caves. They use this one thing called petroglyphs, which is where they like kind of carve out an image in the rock from another rock, and that through that we've been able to kind of see some of their culture.
And on that topic, the culture that I think has came through STEM work the most is probably science, because we've learned so much from them and the way that they hunted the land. And I know we wouldn't be actually able to go out and do it today, but they did that for us so that we can kind of know what's out there and know what, you know, a crocodile is, not to go near that. And their storytelling was a big part of theirs. And I feel like we've handed that down kind of in even our society, where families tell stories, or even like the Bible or spiritual stories or anything like that.
Definitely. It was a really interesting culture to research, and we're glad that some like people are still keeping their story alive, because through colonization, a lot of what was theirs was taken away. Like a lot of things we white people colonization does.
Yeah.
And so we're glad that we were able to find a lot of information about it, because it was really neat to learn about a whole different culture before it was taken over.
Yeah.
It was really good.
And to just think that these people live there in a place where there's like all these deadly things, like bugs that can kill you, and snakes that can kill you, and
Without
crocodiles
what we
that can
have.
kill you without what we have. And that, you know, some of them are still alive today. I mean, not as much as we would hope, but some of them are still alive today. It's just amazing. So we really had fun at researching Australia.
Thank
you.
Thank you.